Welcome, everybody, to today's Building My Legacy podcast. I have with me today Don Markland. Don is interesting because he's done a lot of things. And, here is what's fascinating is we were just speaking about it, Don and I, before this podcast began. And there's so many people who do coaching in this world, and they come with different expertises, many very shallow expertises. Hun is one of those people who has a lot of background. He has worked with companies in digital marketing, putting together their marketing programs. He helps coaches work with their marketing programs. He writes for Forbes and a number of other business magazines. So he's a person who looks at what is happening in the marketplace, what's needed, and what do you do to be able to have an impact in the needs of what's in the marketplace. So Don, you have a company called Accountability. And if you would just share a little bit about your journey, what brought you to this place, and then we're going to talk about your company and some of what you do, because it is very fascinating. And by the way, hugely important for those of us who are thinking about building a legacy. So on that note, Don, please.
I will. And first, Lois, thank you. I love what you're doing. The concept of building a legacy. Um, it is not only important for leaders. This is a parental concept that families can grasp and understand. Obviously, businesses can. There's, multiple religious aspects to it. So I love what you do with your podcast, and it's just thank you so much for letting me be a part and share some thoughts. My company, Accountability Now, it's basically exactly what the name suggests. I When we founded the business, it was based on my program, the 4 C's of accountability, and I'll share that story of how that came up in a second. But it really identifies one of the core problems that faces leaders when they're building their legacy, when they're building their teams, when they're building their startups. One of the biggest problems is accountability, either amongst their teams, adherence to a system, or amongst themselves. They just can't seem to stick to what they know they should do. And my program, the 4 C's, really is all about driving accountability, making us have better integrity towards what we know we can do. And then we add business strategy to that to scale businesses faster and sell more and be more successful.
Okay, so let's start with what are those 4 C's?
The 4 C's of accountability. The first C is critique success. So we do it better every time. Whatever you do, and I don't care how good it is, you before you break your wrist, patting yourself on the back. That's how you get, into resting on your laurels. You don't do that. You critique it. You surround yourself with people that will tell you the truth and find opportunities to improve. So the first C is critique success. The second C is we correct failure. And this one's really hard because so many times, not just entrepreneurs, but leaders, parents, kids, it's the fear of failure why you never take action. And we teach, I want more failure. I want more misses. I'm going to encourage misses, encourage try and fails, because it's there that we can correct the failure. Let's figure out what assumptions were made wrong and what decisions were made, and then just correct it rather than punishment and scream and yell. That doesn't do anything. Let's just correct the failure. The
I
third
had,
one, oh, go ahead.
Can I just interrupt for a moment? I had a manufacturing company, and everything we had was proprietary. So we had our own patents and trademarks. And I had somebody from the trade association visit, and I had this really beautiful box sitting on my desk. It was a carved box with colors. And she looked and she said, "What's that?" And I said, "That's my failures." And she said, "You put your failures in a beautiful box?" I said, "Yes, because I need to look at them. I have to want to look at them so I don't make the same mistakes again." And
Exactly.
it's just,
Yeah, that is correct failure at its best, right? Know them, learn from them. right? I love the beautiful box story. That's really powerful, and there's good imagery there. The third C is we celebrate growth, right? When you grow, you think about your life, the hardest thing you'll ever do is grow. That's the hardest thing. If you relate it to fitness, right? And you're doing bench presses, anybody that'll tell you that's in fitness, the hardest rep is the last one, right? The one that makes the muscles rip and the fluid come in. That's the one that counts. And that's what you celebrate, not the fact that you hit a max rep. That's the success. No, we're going to critique, but the fact that you made the choice to grow, we're going to celebrate that. And that's where we get excited and tell everybody, I made a hard choice. I did something that was out of my comfort zone. And I have had people tell me, why do you celebrate growth over success? Why do you do that? Because I believe every person, from the Loises of the world to Don Marklands to anybody, we're all expected to be successful in some fashion. All of us are. And when you reward somebody meeting expectations, that builds entitlement. So I'm not going to celebrate you meeting expectations. I expect you to be successful. But when you make hard choices, right? Growth, that's a choice that's hard. Oh, I'm going to celebrate that. I'm going to go crazy for that. That's awesome. So that's the third one, is celebrate growth. The fourth one is my favorite. It is crush mediocrity. So I'm in Florida, and we have big bugs in Florida. I mean, bugs, God, the size of a shoe. They're enormous. And when they show up, we have a what's called a lonely flip flop. Somebody lost a flip flop somewhere. And when these bugs show up, I take that flip flop, and I have to end that bug's life with that flip flop. And when I hit a bug, I have to hit it with everything that I have, right? I have to crush it, because I know if I just lightly tap a bug, it's going to scurry off, right? It'll survive. And I have a feeling that bug is going to tell all of his bug friends, hey, Don Markland's a wimp. Come on over to the Markland house. Like, it's free game. That is the same thing with mediocrity in your life. When you identify mediocrity, and it can be anything, laziness, not pushing yourself hard enough, lack of integrity, you name it. We all have our own levels of mediocrity, but when you find it, you crush it with everything you have, just like you would that bug. Take that flip-flop and crush it so hard that you realize, I won't stand for this anymore. And it is amazing what happens when you live those principles and start to think about them constantly. You become a powerful executive, a powerful leader, and changes your life.
No, okay, so it does change your life, and change always brings with it a whole lot of fear. So, how do you get people outside that comfort zone, that fear zone that I'm afraid, start looking at that to really begin to tackle these four C's?
That's a great question. One of the things that I've written about on Forbes is about the concept of confidence, right?
Competence
Confidence,
or
right?
confidence?
Confidence. Yep. Confidence is a skill, right? It's a developed skill, and I would love to say that is my coined phrase. Mel Robbins is the first person I heard use it. She used it in her book, The 5 Second Rule. And you can develop just like any skill, right? If I play the piano, and I've played the piano for years. My first few years playing the piano, I was a disaster. I wasn't very good, and whenever I had recitals, I was terrified to do those recitals. It was, you want to talk about fear, there was real fear. But now, if somebody said to me, Don, can you go up there and play jazz piano in front of 1,000 people? I do it in a heartbeat, because confidence is always a skill. And so, just like learning the piano, I'm going to take a client or take a leader and say, we're going to do one thing really small. And we're going to do it repeatedly until you've learned the skill of confidence. It's not magic. It's not pixie dust with a fairy. It's a developed skill. And so many times we get obsessed with this concept of insecurity, right? As leaders, well, I'm not good enough. I should be better. I should be Elon Musk. I should be Sarah Blankley. I should be these people. And that's just not true. That's the what I call the bully of the brain, right? The person inside your brain that's telling you you're not good enough that isn't real. That that bully of the brain is not a real thing. It's your insecurity trying to discourage you from growth. And you just develop confidence through small little steps repeatedly over time. And that's where the power of a coach comes in, who can push you to do uncomfortable things repeatedly, 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 so you can be your best self.
Don, who comes to you for coaching? Because it takes a certain okay, I break people, I break professionals into several different categories, right? There are people who are entrepreneurs who are just sorting. There's a lot that they are yet learning. They're early in the process. They haven't really figured out what they're good at. Then you have sort of that next level who's really gotten some very good technical skills. They want to be and do more in terms of influence. Then you have those who have really kind of been there, done that, but they've had kind of a process and a motor behind them pushing, and they look back and they see where they want to go with legacy above, but they look back and they go, okay, I'm not healthy. My relationships have fallen apart. And you start going through the list. So who do you really target? And because I think that takes a certain amount of maturity to look at these four C's as a leader and be able to say, I'm going to go for it. That's exactly what I need, and I'm going for it.
That's a very poignant, I think, question. So much of coaching, and particularly business coaching, but it also applies to people that pursue life coaching needs or even relationship coaching. So much of it is trigger based, based on a trigger event causing an emotional concern. You would relate that to the insurance industry. Okay, so anybody that works in insurance sales, any of your listeners that are in that business will know exactly what that means. Is they target people that have had a trigger event in their life, and they know they will buy based off of trigger events. Coaching is no different. When somebody has had a trigger event in their business or relationships, or insert event here, oftentimes that's when they will start to say, hmm, I need help. Now, to your point about maturity, uh, you, to receive coach, um, they have to be, willing to learn and receive coaching. I have, in my tenure as a coach, fired two clients, right? Where I've said, hey, I know, like, they wanted to continue to work with me and pay me. I've said, I appreciate that, but life's too short. It is not fun for me to work with you every week, only for you to argue with what I'm advising you and to say you disagree, right? You can pay me all the money in the world. It's not fun, right? I want to grow this business. I want to help. And my methods are a little bit different, whereas I approach coaching the individual for part of it and building the business for part of it. So it's a more all-in structure so that the real results come as the business scales, not just the individual.
So talk with me a little bit about that because I think that's really important. People look for ROI. Does it really matter? And I think when you put those two pieces together, you can show ROI much more effectively. So would you speak to that a little bit in terms of that business component that you bring?
Yes. So when I got into this space, I wanted to be a different type of coach, and I didn't want to do just specific individual coaching. Even I do some of it, but the majority of what I do is I partner in with a business, and I offer lower entry rates than many of my peers do at my level. But I do that based on metrics, and we have a tier based system. So as the business grows and performs, then everybody can win together. And it comes back to my roots of being a salesperson and a chief revenue officer, right? I just always come from the mindset of, hey, we should be growing and growing and growing and growing. And I have found business owners, particularly smaller business owners, have an appetite for that type of arrangement because from a cash flow perspective, it's easier to bite off or invest in. And I win because in a year down the road, the business has grown from 1 million to 5 million. And now together we're both doing very, very well.
So when you do that, how many clients can you work with at a time?
I have 25 right now.
Okay, wow, that's impressive. So how often do you meet with your clients when you do that?
Uh, it all depends upon the individual relationship because some clients that want intense work, I meet with every single week without fail. And some I meet every other week, and then some I just meet with once a month. But one of the unique things about Accountability Now and working with me is I call myself the Netflix of coaching, right? So Netflix is, right, you do a once a month, my wife says you should call it Disney Plus. That's more popular now. But um, the Netflix of coaching is you do a monthly subscription and you get unlimited downloads. And so I try to engage with my clients much more than once a week, once every other week, or once a month. We are much more, lack of a better word, intimate than that. For example, one of my clients, he's a big CEO of a $20 million business out of Vancouver, and we worked so hard to get him a speaking engagement. And we got him the speaking engagement in Las Vegas. He was an introvert, so we worked on his speech together. We practiced it, we role played it, and I was in the Philippines for work. He landed in Las Vegas to give his speech, and then while he was in Las Vegas, he needed prep. He was nervous, as somebody in that situation might be. He called me, which was in the middle of the night for the Philippines. We got on the phone, we role played it again, got him ready, and he jumped on stage, killed the speech, got 3 deals from that presentation. And if I had said to him, "Hey, wait till our Thursday call, we'll talk about it," that's that's not what a coach, that's not what a teammate does, right? And that's where I try to be a little bit different. I try to really be engaged at that level.
Actually, that's much more fun too. It's more fun to be a part of something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's this entrepreneur in me. Early in my career, I was lucky to own a company in Salt Lake City, Utah, with another friend of mine that we built and got up and sold it just a couple of years ago, which was really nice. And I won some entrepreneurship awards for the growth scale that we had on that. And I've always loved getting involved with a business and growing it and building it from that perspective. It's just, in fact, I have a rule: if the business is over 25 million, I don't want to be involved, because that's when you get a board. That's when you get, sometimes private equity is going to start to come sniffing around. And I'm like, hey, you need to find a different coach. My job is to get you to 25 million and try to get you to a sell. Other than that, it's not as fun for me.
Don, time goes so remarkably fast. You have so much to share. What have we not talked about that you think is really important for people to know and to think about?
That one of my favorite um, sayings is the Chinese proverb. Everybody uses it, but it's: the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. And so uh, UPS did a study that showed 70% of small businesses that invested in coaching lasted 5 years longer than those that didn't. And so any small business owner that might be thinking, God, do I need the right coach? It might not be me. You don't have to use me. You could use myself. You could use Lois. You could use so many other people, because you have to like your coach. You have to connect with them. But investing in coaching is the best thing you can do for your business. It'll take it to the next level. You can go to my site at accountabilitynow.net. I know you've talked about, we'll share that and learn more about it. But more importantly, learn about how you can help yourself by hiring the right coach and scaling your business. You can't do it alone. Get somebody to help you.
I think that one of the things that especially entrepreneurs struggle with is you go into entrepreneurship often because you want to do it alone. You're independent in your spirit. And the disservice that has happened, I think, to entrepreneurs is there has not been a robust discussion about no one does it alone. And if you do, your odds of really being able to grow and scale and have the revenue that you're looking to have, or the profitability, which is more important probably, is it will elude you. And so that independence can be a deterrent. It's a great skill to have because you have the drive, but it can also be what kills you.
Yeah, and to tie it back to the whole concept of your awesome podcast, that independence sometimes alienates against their staff and hurts them from leaving a legacy and really building something that lasts. And it's the outside perspective of somebody that has learned and failed and gone through it that can say, okay, you're making mistakes, right? There's another old saying, I believe it was Buddha that said it, a wise man learns from his own mistakes, but the wisest man learns from the mistakes of others, right? And that's the whole point of hiring the right coach, is you can just cheat off of their mistakes and get ahead faster.
You know what? Our time is up. And for those of you who are listening, we will put information about Don in the show notes so you can be in contact with him. He has an ebook that talks about some of these things that he's working on. And there's a way for you to be in connection with him. Should you need further help or assistance, please let us know. We will be glad to connect you with Don. Don, thank you so much for being with us today on Building My Legacy podcast.
Thank you so much, Lois. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell button above. Leave comments. We'd love to hear what you think. And visit our other social media links as well. Thanks much.